this video is going to be a little bit longer than all of my other tanking videos. It's going to go into my fusion rune choices, my rune set choices, my LAS, my amp choices, and then the quick demonstration of the rotation over, I don't know, maybe just what a pool would look like. So, just getting started, the weapon, I have my 4 of 8 Vanguard, which is the eye level 120 DS class set. I have it in there because, why not? I could have put it on my shoulders, I just didn't. But I do have Death Stance in there, and Death Stance is amazing because it gives you crit hit and deflect rating, so I dropped some of my tanking amps to get some more threat, and this gives both some mitigation as well as increased threat and increased damage because of the crit hit. I have it up, I feel like, about 100% time on both those buffs. Now with the shield, I'm using a GA eye level 96 shield because it has a very low shield mit, so that your reduced damage is going to be up as much as it can be. The reboot time and shield regenerator are amazing on it, especially when you're like kiting a mob or a boss or something like that. If you need to move from A to B, you can use leap to get away from them, and that shield is just going to pop right back up. I use greater hardy in the helmet. Basically, the lowest hardy you can use, the better, because they're all the same. They scale all exactly the same. So just throw it in there. It's increased healing. You could go the crit mit route if you really wanted to, but I'd recommend not doing it. Shoulders I have nothing in because they're in my weapon. You'll notice that I have a lot of Devastation, Alleviation combos throughout the entirety of all my runes. These are just all eye level 120s. In my chest I have Flurry as well, which I'm pretty sure 100% uptime on that as long as I'm in combat. Just from the crit hits and multi-hits. It's an amazing threat. In the gloves I have Enrage. Some people like to use Menace. Menace is 12% threat as soon as you attack. Which is nice for burst threat at the beginning, but the reason Rage is better, for at least me in my opinion, is it's 6% increased damage and 6% increased threat. The 6% increased damage translates to about 15 to 18% increased threat. So on top of that, with the threat itself, you're going to be doing around 21 to, I don't know, like 25% increased threat depending on what the ability is. So it's amazing. The pants, I have both 4 of 8 Burning Rage and 4 of 8 Energized Arms. I'll get to that in a second. And in my boots, I've got Steadfast. A lot of people like to use Hut Hike. I personally don't, just because whenever I'm moving, if I have to dash somewhere, or if I have to run somewhere, I don't like getting snared. So I tend to use those along with having Leap. It's really nice just to get around really quickly. Some people like moving faster with Hut Hike, but just from personal experience, I like using Steadfast. It reminds me of one of the amps that we have in our utility tree that I'm not able to use because of the build I do use. So just to cover real quickly, you're going to Energized Arms 4 of 8. You're going to want that. It's a staple. The amount of extra damage it does if you're above, or the bonus shield you gain from below, is just amazing threat, amazing survivability, amazing damage. It's just, it's unavoidable. You have to have this to do really good threat. Well, not, I guess, to do really good threat, but it's amazing to have nonetheless. Burning Rage, I'm just messing around with right now. It's kind of expensive to use these runes if you're buying them, but luckily I've actually gotten some decent stuff from bags and DEing, so this actually didn't hurt my guild trying this, and I can put this in an off-spec set if I want to. I might end up trading this out for 4 or 6 Devastation, or maybe, yeah, probably, I don't know, or maybe Alleviation, who knows. For my gadget, I'm using Firewall. I don't know if I covered that, I don't think I did. But that's basically 12,000 or 11,907 if you want to be specific. Absorb. It's amazing on pulls if you can hit multiple people with it for a bonus threat. I'm pretty sure Absorb still pull threat. Who knows? Carbine could have changed a million times by the time this video is done being made. With my rotation for my LAS, pretty much these are staples. Tier 8 into Menacing Strike, Jolt, and Bolstering Strike. I've covered Menacing Strike and Bolstering Strike. This should be your Tier 8s as soon as you hit 50 if you're tanking. Without a question. Jolt, you're going to Tier 8 it because of the way the Tier 8 works with Polarity Field and Atomic Surge, reducing the cooldown of Jolt by 5 seconds. These go in conjunction with Vanguard Tier 4, which increases threat by 10%, stacks 2 times. So anytime you use Jolt, 10%. Polarity Field, 10%. Stacks twice, 20%. Crazy. And the reason you use this is in the Tier 8 is so that when you use Polarity Field and Atomic Surge, as long as you're not doing tank swaps, this should be fine to spam because it's going to be bonus damage on top of a little dot it puts on it, and also how it's going to be lowering Jolt's cooldown so that you're going to be able to at least keep up about 10% threat throughout the entire fight. But on pulls, it's crazy good for bursts. these two are going to be, you can replace them with whatever if you don't need to interrupt during a fight. If you need to bring defense grid or a taunt to lower everyone else's damage, do it. It's always nice to have utility. This build allows you to have these two slots for utility. You can drop leap if you want to. That's really up to you and your playstyle. Covering the amps. So this one is where it gets a little weird. So I went in, I dropped all these crit mits because from my amps or from my runes I don't need it anymore, and my gear. Deflect I dropped just to go into other places. I dropped 12% increased healing, and I use hardy. So for me, damage isn't really a big deal. I don't really take enough to ever. I've never been one shot unless it's on Avatus for some reason. Like we have bugs with cleaving, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I do keep health sponge. It's just nice to have bonus health. Just all there is to it. Some people like to use mountain in their chest instead of flurry, which is going to give you more armor, more mitigation. I just personally like the extra health pool. You need the 3 for strike through. You're going to go through crit. You can go to berserker. It does reduce the damage you take, or sorry, increases the damage you take by 5% whenever you use it. But you can also just throw it in a laceration or power hitter. Bloodlust isn't really going to be super great for you. Maybe on like Avatus or any fight, or Omna for some reason. But it's really not going to be a big deal for you. One of these 3 will be much more useful throughout the fight. And then Kinetic Fury, because you can control basically how much damage you're going to be outputting. You can go this route in the Hybrid Assault support, where you get energy banks, which is increased healing, or sorry, not increased healing, but good healing per second. As long as you're above 50% shield, you're a warrior. It's going to happen a lot. Kinetic Burst, which is nice to get that KE up really quickly whenever you're going on the fight. And then Fury, but the only reason I don't like this is because it requires you to take damage. Whenever you go into the fight, that burst threat's a lot harder for a lot of warriors. So, you know, going in, you're going to almost instantly be at 80%. Here, you're going to have to wait to get hit, and then throughout the fight, you're going to have to wait to get hit 5 more times if it falls off. So I like to control my destiny, so we're going to go with Kinetic Fury here. Some people might swap stuff out. You might go for more mitigation if you're getting hit pretty hard. That's whatever, but this is the build I like to use. You can swap this 1 amp around for lifesteal or deflect if you want to, or crit mid if you really need to or something. You're going to have 1 left over, so just throw it wherever you want. It doesn't matter. So yeah, that's pretty much the build in its entirety. You are going to go in. I'm going to just hit this thing real quick, make sure my threat meter is working, and it is fantastic. So I'm going to take a couple seconds to get out of combat. I have all raid buffs on. This is a DS mob. I'm not going to do an Avatus because this isn't for taking Avatus. But basically you're going to go in, you're going to use leap. As soon as you get in there and use leap, you're going to hit you're going to hit jolt, and then menacing strike, and then polarity field. You should be able to get in if you had energy bank, or sorry, not energy banks, kinetic burst. It'd get you up faster. But for this, you're going to want to use leap, and then you're going to go in, use jolt, and then menacing strike, polarity field. And whenever you use jolt, you should pop your innate as well, so that your threat is going to be higher. And by the time that the boss has probably hit you at least, you know, a couple times, like once or twice at the very least, you'll have increased threat and damage from what's on your gloves within rage. So this is kind of what that's going to look like going in. You should be able to see what my total threat is, and here's the little timer on vortex meter. So here we go. Sleep in. Going to use jolt, and there it is. That put us at right at 200,000 threat within like 5 seconds. So that's pretty good snap threat. I'm not even using, this isn't even optimal at this point, but you always want to try to make sure you can line up your 3 bolstering strikes with getting the 20% additional threat, and it's just really good threat. You're going to do pretty good. You shouldn't have any issues whatsoever doing additional threat. You might want to have your DPS hold off for 2 seconds, but as soon as that happens, you're basically good to go and just go as high as you want. So that should really be it for now.